Hello everybody. Let me get to my screen here so we can start our lesson for today. Hopefully more to the point today with a little less frilly silliness. And our today's topic is, I don't know, I haven't titled the video yet, but it's something along the line of how to know your um, triads up and down the neck. And we've done that, but we haven't done major and minor. And today I want to show you this really super easy visual link that I stumbled upon to also go get minor understood. Instead of having two separate understandings, you'll know them all at once. And I think that's totally awesome. And that is the what we're doing on this channel, using geometry to make things simple, the fretboard geometry to make things simple. And it always holds true. So what we've got here today. And another thing about this lesson is I'm going to go with the meat and potatoes of the lesson first, what I want to show you. And for those who get lost, instead of taking constant tangents on the longer explanations in music and the theory behind these things, I'm going to do that at the end. So for everyone who is caught up on some of these theories, you'll just know exactly what I'm talking about if you haven't already figured this out. So here we go. Now, major um, triads. There's three of them, which is handy dandy with triad, three notes in a chord, three shapes on the fretboard, and you can see them here in green on this particular diagram here. I've labeled the intervals in the chord, the 1, the 3, and the 5 that are needed for a chord, and in this case a major chord, so a major third. So we have 1, 3, 5, 3, 5, 1 in this shape, and the straight up and down 5, 3, 1, and you'll see that something is being selected here for some reason. All right. And this is we're using as on the fretboard diagram here. I've got it over the G chord. You can hear those are ringing the same, different inversions of this same chord. They'll all work in the context of a G chord. When a major chord shows up, these are the three shapes you can find on your fretboard to concentrate on. You can we've shown you how to easily expand these into scales so that you'll know from your scale riffing or improvising where your home base notes are, the three out of the four other notes that you're considering, and considering that there's also a 7 that goes along with these chords pretty well that can be considered a chord tone. You've really only got 3 stepping stones and four chord tones, so to speak, loosely understood that way. But what about minor? So above that, I've got the minor chords listed here, the shapes for minor. And we've got, one thing I wanted to say is these are not in the order I taught in another lesson. We use this straight up and down shape here to be like the anchor point in the middle. And then we've got the slope shape, I guess we'll call it the slide, right here, this shape here where the plus sign is, on to the right, or the bridge side of that wall shape. And on the left side, we have the upside down D minor shape, which is a handy dandy way to memorize these things. And you can always find your wall shape for any chord you need by just knowing your A string, because it's that power chord shape. So if I need all this in reference to C, there's my C chord. If I need it in F sharp, did I just play an F sharp? Yeah. And if I need it in E flat, you can. It's very quick there's my wall chord right there. And I can find all those shapes, even though they're a bit down the fretboard, by using that octave pattern. But anyways, we've talked about that in another video. Okay, so in that regard, I'm also going to get the camera, I think, down more on my guitar when we get to some of these points. So now that we kind of got our minds back on major triads, how can we find the minor triads like so simply without even having to barely think about it? And you can do that by only moving one finger. So let me show you, like on this here above the green major triads are the shapes of these minor triads, not in necessarily the same kind of order. As you can see here, like the interval sequence is different. Like for example, here we have a 3-5-1. I'm not saying minor third. I'm just going to call it the 3 just to save something. I don't know. You got a 3-5-1, and that's similar to this chord over here, the 3-5-1. And this one, so for example, is similar to this wall chord here. But however, this chord also works on top of this chord, and it only requires one note change. So it's what I'm showing with the arrow here. This chord, you can think of this chord and this chord together, and you're only moving the 5 to the 1. So let me show you here on the fretboard. So if I were to play this shape here, now we're down on the F. Well, I'll move it up to G like the chart. I'm just going to add my pinky to the 5th fret of the B string, and I'm making that shape that's directly up above now by adding this gray note, but changing this 5 where my index finger was to my pinky where this note was. And what I have there, this would be in the key of C. The G that I'm playing now is the 5 chord. So now I have a minor chord. But which minor chord do I have? Well, this is all you need to know for that. You need to know this relationship here. And speaking of relationships, that is the second bonus of this lesson. I'm going to show you in a little bit how you can really start to see all the relationships between chords. It's a real eye-opener. If you haven't really thought about how chords are related to each other, you're going to see that in this lesson. It's totally awesome. So anyways, the 5 is related to the 3, the 4 chord in yellow, which when we see my next chart here, when I show the 4, the 5, and the 1, and then the 3, the 2, the 3, and the 6, right here on this side, you're going to see how they're all right next to each other on the fretboard. They're all underneath your fingertips. You got all 7 chords just like that. Anytime you need them, it's so totally easy. And it helps you remember, once you get this little pattern I'm going to show you, it helps you understand the other patterns all across the fretboard. Anyways, so if you were playing the 4 chord, and so for this example in our key of C, to that, switch my pinky over to the minor shape, and we're just concentrating on these 3 strings right here. The 5, the B is the 5, G as the what are we gonna call that, the 6? I don't know. Just the D, the G, and the B strings. How about that? Because you can name these strings. You could. I don't want to deal with or try to confuse the people that are, call the top. I guess people call the top one the 6th string, right? And then the bottom one is the 1. So we're just dealing with the 4, 3, and 2 strings. Yeah, okay. Never mind all that. Anyways, so this 4 chord becomes the 2. 5 chord becomes a 3. And a 1 chord becomes a 6. And that stands for if I play the 1 chord down here, and even though I'm using open strings, I'm pointing at the computer again. I'm playing this chord right here, a version of this chord right here. So all I need to do is make that note the change. So, and you can see how that represents the C. If I just put my index finger right back there, I'm playing the same old C open chord. So you can see where that comes from. And I'm just going to pick with my fingers here. And then if I play the, change that one note there, you can see I've got the A minor shape. And if I just add the open A note, I've got the same old A minor shape. And it works anywhere up the fretboard. So if I was up here, what's that, an F? And then I'd be, now I'm at D minor, F and D minor. If we're back in the key of C, where we stayed in the key of C, with the 4 and the 2. All right, because remember, before I go off on a tangent there, we're going to show you that at the end of the lesson, where this 4 and 2 all come from, if that's alien to you right now. So, okay, so now we can see that, just one note change can change all of these chords. So let's just wrap that up before we change pages here. So we've got this, the first one here, the 1, 3, 5. I can change that into that. If I've got the shape here where that's once again 5, 3, 5, 3. We're insinuating the open G, and here the E minor, the 3 chord. All right, and we'll move that up here with our wall shape, and we just put one finger there, and I've got the E minor, and you can see that comes from the E minor bar chord, just the same as you play open down here. So E minor, oops, but you're just playing these 3 notes, and then open, which comes from the G shape. We're in the GE relationship. And so, well, actually, that was supposed to be 1, 6. Well, no, it wasn't. It was supposed to be 5 and 3. 5, 3, 5, 3. One note to go from major to minor. And if I do that with all the chords will do the same. All the majors will flip over to the relative minors that quickly. And you might have only heard that relative minor as far as the 1 and the 6 in the scale. But to me, I think relative minor is available from the 4 to the 2 and the 5 to the 3. They're relative to each other. You can see that right here. So, and by relative, because think about what they mean by relative. They just mean that CEG is related to ACE. You've got both chords got CE. You're just, one has an A and one has a G. So, because when you consider inversions, that you can stack these notes on top of each other and it still is representing the same chord, then the fact that it's a difference between the G and the A is a little less important. It's just there's a big, strong relationship there. You have 2 matching notes. So what about G and E? So G, B, D. And then E, B, G. You've got the G and the B as the 2 relationship notes. How about F and D? F, A, C, D, F, A. You've got the F and the A as the 2 relationship notes. So there's even more than that, but so let's move on to another, let's expand this a little bit here. So now I've got all the major chords here listed, and it would have been too cumbersome to put the minor chords in there, but you know now that you know how to do that, I'm sure you can handle it. But and you can see the color coding here. In yellow I've got the 4 chord, in green I've got the 5 chord, and without any, and I've got the relationships there. The 4 goes along with the 2, the 5 goes along with the 3, and the 1 here for the 1, since there's so much overlap between the 1 and the 5, that I just used a number. I thought that would be better. I just labeled 1, 1, and 1 to have the 1 chord pop out there. It would have been almost impossible to do that any other way. So, and then you can see the relationship. The 1 and the 6 are the relationship, a strong relationship. So I've got 4. Right there, I just played all 7 chords of the major scale. Now, one little side thing I thought of yesterday as I was preparing this lesson, I was kind of thinking about, hey, that's cool for real estate there, meaning that we're only using two 2 places on the neck. So, like, if we consider where the 4 chord is, we can cover the 4, and we can actually cover the 6. We can cover the 4, and we can cover the 2. And then in the next place over, we can cover the 5, the 7, the 3, and even the 1. And we've got everything there. But if you go back a few lessons, we covered another way to use the they're all housed in one spot on the fret. All these chord shapes are housed in one spot on the fretboard by considering the scale pattern known as Phrygian, which has nothing to do with playing in modes. It's just the name because it starts on the 3rd, which has a technical explanation of. It just uses the same technical explanation of starting on the 3rd. But what we really want to talk about here is the shape. See, I had to go down 2 to get to the 1. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm starting my scale there. Okay, so we would have you could play them all from that real estate. On this side of the scale, you've got your 6, your 1, and your 4. All your 3 major chords. On this side, you've got your 3 minor chords. The 3, the 6, and the 2. All coming from the basic shapes, open chord shapes that you probably were taught. This is the very first chords to learn on your guitar. So for real estate, there's that. But maybe you want to be able to be all across the neck and know these relationships, and this is how you would do that with today's lesson. So 4, 2, let's put this back down on the guitar here. 4, 2, 5, 3, and then straight up and down we've got the 1, and we need the 6. We can play that here, or as I showed earlier, we could use this other inversion down the neck here. And you can see this is coming from the bar chord on the 5th string for A minor, or on the 6th string for A minor. That's where this one's coming from. And this is coming from the open A minor chord with the 5th string open. So pretty neat. So it's just one finger is what the neat thing is. Now, a second little bonus here is chord extension. One thing that's neat about these fingerings, if I just bar my index finger across both strings, I've got a root again. So, just like the F chord shape that we learned for open chords, which comes from our larger cowboy chord. But if I just use my pinky down on the string up here, you can see I'm going from the 1 to what must be the 2. And the 2, a higher extension of a 2, is usually going to be called a 9, referred to as a 9. So if you need some kind of 9 chord, it's not going to be referred to as like a suspended 2nd chord because you're still ringing the 3rd in the chord there. If you didn't have that and you just maybe went away from it, now we just got a Maybe we play the 4 and the 2 here. I'm not sure why that sounds so awful, but maybe the 4 and the 2. Well, those got a good harmony, but not as harmonious as I thought. Okay. Let's make these sound kind of good. Now, in this close shape here, I don't think that these sound as musical as they could. But maybe if we go now, I want the 2 chord. You know, that sounds better to go into the 1. You know, you can just where did I get all those melody notes from? Because I'm instantly expanding my knowledge of C major into, which was where those chords came from, into the simple shapes. Dorian shape, which all from those simple shapes, which go back to now it's waiting to resolve to the 1, or I could almost get away with any of those chords, no matter how they sound, as long as I resolve it properly. Since I played within a shape I know as the, even though it'll work for under any chord of the scale, that is the A minor shape. I was resolving it to the C there. And I started on the C, so that kind of set it up as a C major. There I brought it down to the, I ended on that, which the A, which made it the A minor shape sound pretty good. So you can see what you can do once you start getting these shapes under your fingers, how you can, start throwing melodies at it and combining these shapes with melodies and to kind of bump up your playing and your knowledge before you step into your enclosures like we talked about in another lesson and stuff like that. And what I've realized is that you can get away with more outside playing if you can really nail your inside playing. That's when you can start to get these make this thing where they say, well, there's no wrong notes, just a note that you don't stay on, or you got to be really particular with the rhythm to, I guess, make it as succinct as I can for another long set of techniques there. So let's move our sheet here to what I created here. When I created these, I was kind of going along with a lesson in my mind. So it's a little bit out of sync with that today. But here, what I'm showing is the old shapes now as the new and I screwed that up. Look at that. What I was supposed to have, maybe I'll try to fix that on the fly here really quick. Here, so let's go. First of all, let's make that, let's choose that square, and we're going to make that a green color. All right, and we're going to make this a green color. Just like that. And now we need a gray. I believe I used this one down here, but we don't want that one turning back gray. We're going to go here and get this one back gray right there, and this guy right here to the gray. So now you can see the inverse. You can see the old shape with the gray note now moved to the minor. And so if I went up here to this shape, it's now this shape. And you can see all I got to do is put my finger back down on the 5th fret root, and I've got where it's coming from, the E minor chord. It's this E minor bar chord that you've always known. On top of that, if I go up here and use this note, I've got that jazz chord. Jazz chords, if you learn some jazz voicings, should I say, on the guitar, they'll often say I'm plucking with my thumb is plucking the 1 string, and my 3 fingers are on the 4, 3, and 2 strings. And so that gives me a root up on the C note here, and you can see the relationship between C major and E minor. Which is a well, this is C major 7. So that gives us an extra note to work with, which gives us that relationship to E minor. Even though C is, as a triad, is more closely related to A major or A minor. There's also a relationship between C major 7 and E minor. And these are the kind of relationships you can start discovering when you start messing with this. So we didn't go right up here. The major and the new minor shape. But I think you get all that. Let's move on from there. But you can, the big take-home point here is that, as you can see, the 3 minor chords of the scale are directly, you don't even have to move your fingers to catch them from underneath the 3 major chords of the scale. Is it the most musical thing in the world? Maybe not. Now, let's, now we, we expanded that here now to the, excuse me, the all the chords, and for the 6th chord, just like the 1, with the relationship being 6 and 1, I should have put the relationships right next to these, but I didn't. I'll probably put them down here. But anyways, I'm sure you're getting that. A yellow for the 2, which also goes with the 4. That's the same color for yellow we used with major. So the 2. There's the 5-3 relationship, 3 minor chord, and the 6 right there. So you can see down here the 6. In C major, the 6th chord, the minor chord is the A minor, and I even put the 6 right down there so you can see where it's coming from, that root. We have already said that. So then we would have up here. Four, or well, 2, 3, 6. And you can see, you can just hear the musical relationship You're starting away in the scale. You've gone as far away as you can go, and back to your minor home. I mixed up some major and minor there, mostly on the 4 and the 5. So this is basically really the minor version. Oh, sorry, this chart right here. There's your major version and your minor version, and your major version and your minor version. So I guess in essence, I could have put the one. Yeah, could I have done that? Well, this was insinuating major, no minor there. So, anyways, yeah. Okay, I see what I could have done there. I could have done just to since I've got the 1 or the 6 chord right down here. It's relative chord there in that area, and that would have been having a 1 here. Let's do that. And oh, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. My bad. This would be where the 1 is, and this would not be where the 1 is. I'm sorry. Hard to think about what you're doing when you're in the middle of these lessons. So I was right. Yeah, that's a B. B is not in C. And but this note is right there, and this note would be the, yeah, because that shape becomes a minor shape. Boom. Cool. So what if I play what am I playing? I'm playing 3, 6, 3, 6, 3, 4, 3, 6. And you can hear there's musicality between these chord shapes because of the relationships. They're all on the same scale. They all come from a parent scale. We haven't discussed the 7. You might say, well, Mark, aren't we missing that one? Where's that one chord, the 7? Now, the 7 chord, all you got to do, remember your handy standard D shape down here, D major. Well, let's move up to the 4-3-2 strings and play that, and we'll play it. A minor shape, B diminished shape, C. Where does that come from? We've got the F. We need BFA. We got the F. We've got the B. So we had F, the B, and the D. We need BFD, not BFA. BFD. Wait a minute. Screw that up because it would be B, D, E, F. So B, D, F is actually what we need. That's why that didn't sound like it made sense at first. And we have that all here. In inversion, but And it sounds like the right step between the 6 and the 1. 6, 7, 1. And on top of that, so you can see a relationship here. Now this shape that we played, this D major shape, well, if you know your jazz voicings, that's coming from the jazz 7, which is, now we're playing the G. And we know that the 5 chord, especially as a 7, its true nature in the major scale. That's what's special about the 5 chord and what makes it always talked about in music, and why it's always that one that's going to pull, have the most resolve to the 1, is because of that dominant nature. It's because it's the only major chord that has uses a flat 7 in its voicing instead of a regular 7 like the other 2 chords. The F major is a major 7 chord. The C major is a C major 7 chord, but the G is a dominant 7 chord. And there's the relationship between the B and, interestingly enough, what's the second note of the G chord? The B. So there's a strong relationship between the 7 and the 1, and that's why the 7 always resolves to the 1 the same way, or wants to pull to the 1 the same way that the 5 chord wants to pull to the 1. There's just a huge implication there of relationships and voice leading that's happening. Okay, so relationships like that. How about this relationship? We can start to see this. What about this one? We've got the 1 shape here, this straight up and down shape on the 5th fret for C major. So what if I play the 3 chord? There's our relationship again to the C and the E minor. You can see how, once again, there's the 3 chord as 1 note different from the C chord. Now, how is that? Well, let's think about it. C, E, G, and an E chord is E, G, B. Oh, okay, so there's the E and the G as the 2 strong pull notes that create a strong relationship there. So all pretty neat stuff. Now that's an okay, relationship there, but it's a little bit of more of a jump because we're dealing with the 2 chord. And the 1 chord. And there's not as much of a relationship there. We have D, F, and A, C, E, and G. There's no commonality actually between those 2 chords. You may want to find a way back there using the resolve chord, the B. The B has a relationship with the 2 chord. You can see it shares the 2 notes here. There's the B, there's the D. And that, instead of, here you go. And you can hear that there's more of a step progression between those chords, and it's all just chord relationships. And you can start to see those by seeing how, putting these voicings, seeing which voicings overlap. And yeah, here I just showed the roots where these are coming from, so you can see this minor. You can kind of think, like if you get stuck, if you play this in a random place up here, All right, what minor chord is that referencing? Okay, we'll put your root right there. And you've got an A minor. Or now I'll show you another relationship here. Now, this shape here, if I bar my finger here and I play the same kind of inverse D chord, I call that, D shape, I should say, then I would have a E, F. I have an F major 7. Now what's the relationship between F major 7 and A minor? That's like in our key of, that's the 6 and the 4. Well, we've got a relationship that way. So you can think of these as like your even number, where like the 4 is related to the 2. Your 4 is also related to your 6 because you can just consider your even number connection. And you're just changing the root there. But the gut notes stay the same. Just basically, so let's think about that. So we have in an F chord we have F A C, and in an A minor chord we have A C and E. So we're keeping the C and the E, and well, how am I doing that? Oh, because this one turns it into a 7th chord, and that's where the magic of the 7th note comes in to create these other relationships, and that is the magic of jazz. Well, it's not the magic of jazz, but it's part of the why I would think jazz concentrates more on 7th chords, because you expand your relationships on the fretboard. And, you go from, with that kind of knowledge, you start to understand things that you didn't before you're like I remember at the point where I was like relationships, chords, and how the hell does anybody remember all this stuff? It's like, seems like these people got a library of stuff in their heads. Chances are some good teacher taught these people how to make these simple connections at some point, and it's more of a secret sauce that people keep to themselves. Well, here I am telling you. Excuse my hoarse voice here today. So now I've kind of I've belabored the point of this lesson, I think, as long as I could. And so let's go for the beginners who were lost, as I promised in the beginning of the lesson, about where does these triads come from? Where are these numbers coming from? Well, what you could do if you're brand new is make yourself a little chart like I've done up here. I've used the C major scale, and I've grayed out the sharps and flats, and you would have, so right in here, C sharp, D flat, D sharp, E flat. So just consider this the sharp and this the flat. So of course between the 3 and 4 of a major scale, you don't have any sharps or flats, and that's why the C major is used, because all of our not used notes are all the sharps and flats. Excuse me again. So that is a big reason. That's an answer to a lot of questions new beginners have, just in that little diagram right there. And then all of a sudden you can maybe even notice, like, hey, Mark, that looks like a piano key, a piano. And now you understand why a piano is set up using C major. And if you even want to ask why it's not A major, well, you could consider that originally the root was A major. Music started off in a more serious sense way back, And then it was more in modern times, it's kind of changed to favor major tonalities and happier music. And so everything really references C as the, which is the relative of A. So everyone references the C really as the starting point. They would just use the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do instead of starting at the beyond that, we have the C major scale, and you can now I've labeled the intervals down here. So C is the considering here the root. So this is where the chord, these Nashville numbers come up. When you do the D, it's the second note. The E is the third note in the scale, and the F is the four, and it's 5, 6, and 7. It's that simple. This is where when someone says the 3 chord and everyone knows it's E in the key of C is because of this. And the 4 chord is F. And this helps you not necessarily, it's a good thing to know. I'm not saying it's not, but knowing the whole notes of your fretboard, you could almost put that as something that'll grow as you explore the fretboard later. Save yourself all that memorization power and put that energy into something else, because these numbers will hold true for every major scale, major, minor, whatever, all of this shape all across the fretboard in any key is what I'm saying. So if you know your 1 and your 4 and your 5 and your 6 from wherever we started there, what was, oh, that was C major again. But let's move it down to some random place. Let me start on A minor. Then you got, there's our 4, there's our 5, there's our 6. The shapes and the numbers all follow each other all the way down. So I don't have to necessarily know all the note names for the relationships. I can just know can just see the connections in the geometry. Excuse me. We got some throat clearing to do, I guess. I'm gonna get a sip of water here though, just to try to end all that. So down below, we have the on the second row here, we have the roots, and I'm showing you here the missing intervals. So this shows you all the intervals you're dealing with when you deal with the major scale. What are the missing intervals? If you see a flat 2, that's right here, and the flat 3 is right here, and the flat 5, and the sharp 5, and the 7. And this comes up handy when you start talking about chords. Chords will start using this stuff. Now, so a chord, let's move down here, and we got root, 3, and 5. You can see, so this is where a chord comes from in the scale. If our root is here on C, we skip one. Chords all do this. If I was to start here on D, I would skip the E and go to the F, skip the G and go to the A. So that's why I was, you would say, oh, a D chord, D, F, A. An F chord, you just skip the letters. So if I'm in F in the key of C, I know it's F, A, C. If I was in, like, let's say the key of G, which uses the F sharp, then I would know it was the F sharp, the A, and the C, because the which would be the 7 of the G. Anyways, you just skip letters to know any scale, but then you have to know, like, in that scale, where are the sharps and are the flats, and that can take a little bit of thought, but it's not really, once you start getting used to this, it's all pretty doable. And like I said, you don't really have to know all these note names as long as you know the functions and positions on the patterns on the fretboard. It's all one and the same. So 1, 3, and 5. So this is what you notice, that the only difference between these two things here, right here. So which one is major, which one is minor? This pattern is called major, and this pattern is called minor. So what is the difference? We both have a root and a 5. It's the guts here that make the happy or sad change. Now remember, this is for beginners. If you're looking at this laughing going, well, duh. Well, yeah, you already know this, but there's some beginners that will watch this and they have no idea what we're talking about. I'm trying to include everybody, and that's why I put this at the end, so we could get the good stuff for um, the intermediate users, which is who I think my audience hopefully is, and but we can keep the beginners here as well. Anyways, and so my lessons don't exclude anybody, but also don't get lost in the music theory tangents, which are so hard to avoid when you try to explain anything with theory involved. So, or these theories involved. Maybe not necessarily the theory, but these theories. So this flat third, you put the minor third in there and you get a minor sadder sound. So it's basically this. That's got a minor third. That's got a major third, and they're down here. This was the note that changed. So I'm just going to play the root in the third, which is what you could do to insinuate any one of these chords at any time. I do that on a bass guitar a lot. If I'm playing a bass line, I might just go... minor, major. No. Trying to figure something out there. This bugged me for a second. Sorry for the pause in the lesson here, but if I played a major and a major together, that's got to be the 4 and the 5. But then the 3 would be here. Well, anyways, I'll figure that out after the lesson. So, it's bugging the hell out of me. Oh, I see what I did there. Yeah, I played the 2 there. Okay. Sorry. It's really just... This is the problem with making live lessons. They just do stupid, get lost on your own tangents like that in front of the audience. Anyways, I was playing. I started by playing the 1 and the 7 there, not the 7, the 2 together. They ring out nice, but that was not what I was trying to go for. Minor third, major third, minor third, major third, and then that would make more sense. 2 majors together are going to be the 4 and the 5. So that stands to reason that my 3 would have to be a half step down. I was playing a whole step down and wondering why it sounded good is because, well, my other chords I was playing weren't insinuating the 4 and the 5 because I was only playing a root and a 2, so they could have been anything at that point. Anyways, sorry, I digress. Oh my gosh, back to the lesson here. I'm sorry. So what I wanted to say here is this. So the guts are what makes the chord. So why are certain chords major and minor? And here's what I actually should have done here. Let me do this too. I'm going to go major and minor, minor, major, major, and we could even put 7 in there to let you guys know that strong dominant 7 relationship that's important to know whenever you're dealing with the 5. And then we've got a minor and then a diminished chord. And back to the root. So, that being said, why is this one major and this one minor? But it's pretty easy to start realizing. And you can see here what we talked about before. 1, 4, 5. Here's our 1, it's major. Go to our 4, that's F, major, and our 5 is major. We go to our 2, it's minor. Go to our 3, it's minor. Go to our 6, it's minor. I made a chart like this in the beginning, and then it wasn't before long. I'm like, yeah, 2, 3, and 6 are minor. 1, 4, and 5, just like the blues, or that common relationship pattern we always hear about in music, all major. So, how does that work? Okay, well let's take a close look. Notice the 3 here is 1, 2, 3 notes away from the root, and then we have 2 notes to the 5, and it's the opposite here and for a minor chord. It's skip 2, grab your 3rd, which is your minor 3rd, in interval speak, and then have 3 notes to get to that same exact 5, because the root and the 5 are the same distance away. You're just changing this middle note relationship. So you can see here, if I consider the D, and now we're going to skip the E and go to the F. Look at that. We have only 2 notes to get to the F, and it's this little half-step relationship here and this half-step relationship here that create this weird pattern that creates this essence of the major scale, that major minor essence of the major scale, that creates this ability to make all this kind of emotional music out of this. So in any of these notes that only have basically 1, 2, 3 notes to get to its second note, or the skip to get to its 3rd note. I guess, I don't know, what would we call it? 1, 2, and 3 to get to the 3rd note there. We could even call it the 2nd note, because 1 and 2, I don't know, but you get the picture here. That you can see why it's a minor chord. We've only got 2 steps, so you've got so like, let's count from here to here. We've got root, flat 2, regular 2, flat 3, and then we would have the regular 3. So if I go here from D, I've got flat 2. Even though these are here, you make the same consideration from your starting point. So you would consider this the root. Then, if this is your chord from the D major scale, you're going flat 2 to flat 3. Oh, okay. So how about let's check the F? We've got flat 2. We're going to the A as the 3rd note. So we've got flat 2, 2, flat 3, major 3, major chord. G will check out the same. A, we're going to get to the C, so we've got flat 2, regular 2, and the flat 3rd. Where does that come from? That's this interval row that we did here to try to show you root. This is the flat 2, this is the 2, this is the flat 3, this is the 3. Okay. So that is where not only an explanation of just major and minor chords in general, where do they come from? How are they made? What is going on with those? And what's the basic theoretical explanation of that? So now you know music theory, the basics of it, and how do those relate to the chords why are those in the scale have these, major and minor mixed around? How is that happening? That's the formula you use. These are basically formulas, and these are the formulas you use to conceptualize all that stuff. And the basic, and when I said, now you know music theory, there's some truth there, because if I was to teach somebody music theory, I would start with the alphabet. If I was to teach somebody a language, music theory is just the language. It's not the rules, it's the language. Language isn't necessarily rules. There's rules within the language to sound coherent, but um, you can spice up the language with weird prose and jazzy words like gonna and ain't, right? Are words that aren't necessarily proper, but they're vernacular that you can understand that will kind of shape, put some personality into some prose sometimes. And so it's the same thing with music. It's not a it's not a set of rules. It's a language. And if I was to teach someone a language, I would teach them the alphabet first. So what is the alphabet of music theory? It's this right here. Is my point here. It's you start with the interval chart. You just know it's from right. You got your twos, your threes, your fives. Five. The fifth is so strong in music that instead of considering it a four and a sharp four, you would consider it the five as having a flat version of itself and a sharp version of itself. Then you have the six on its own, kind of like the four and six, strong relationship. We just saw that in the in our chords, and or somewhat of a relationship, anyways. And then two sevens, which definitely make a difference in the power of a major chord or even a minor. Well, most minor chords will use, naturally, minor chords will use this flat seven to make good coherent sense with the root. I mean, with a flat third, because a flat third, it's going to sound better with the. So let's say with that root, and now we've got this seven in there. But now let's put a major seven in there. Here there's a weird dissonance, even though that's a nice by itself. That's major. Something goes wrong. You've got a, what's that relationship? We've got a one. That's a one and a flat seven. So we've got a half step happening there. It doesn't sound good. So that's why minor chords will always use the flat seven. And this is the kind of stuff you can start realizing when you start realizing what goes with what and then experimenting with the sounds together. Well, why isn't there a major seven in a minor chord? Well, that's why. There's a clash. Now, does that mean, now here's an explanation about rules versus theory. So does that mean that because the theory stands that you would put this, a flat seven is going to sound more congruent with the flat third, generally speaking, does that mean you can never put a major seven in a minor chord? No, there's a time and a place for that. And somewhere, I'm certain in jazz you would find that somewhere. Are you going to find it in rock and pop? Probably not. They definitely don't want to deal with the dissonance and the more complex harmonies that jazz is going to deal with. So you're not going to find that, but it's not, doesn't mean it's doesn't mean that wouldn't have a purpose somewhere. There's some strange ass chord, probably voiced better even on a keyboard too. Some of these things will different instruments will voice these sounds a little better than others, I think. Okay, so that's this lesson wrapped up in a nutshell. Here, here we can see, just the last thing here is our shapes with the minor third in them. Now, this may seem a little off from the lesson I just taught, which is, the shape that the plus is on right there is this root 3-5. And I said you move the 5 over to get that minor. Well, that's to get the 2 minor. I'm going from, let's say, okay, I'm on G, so in the key C, that's the 5. So I'm going from the 5, then our relationship is 5 and 3. Remember 4, 2, 5, 3, 1, and 6. So I've got 5 and 3. These are the related chords in the scale. But if I just go like this, I've gone G major, G minor. Now there isn't a G major and a G minor in the same scale. So that'd be like a parallel minor. And you might say, well, Mark, parallel minor, that's only when you have like, say, A minor, or let's say you're in the key of C. So I'm in C, and I want to go to C minor. It's parallel minor. Okay, well, that's like you're modulating. You're changing keys. So that's where this parallel minor comes from. But it's not, well, I guess my point was it's not only just one. Six. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay, so like 1 and 6. But yeah, I could go C major to C minor. Now that would be like the 6 of the new chord. I mean, you could consider it the 2 or the 4 or the 3, I guess. So that doesn't really matter. But parallel major and minor are usually considering like the 1 and the 6. But let's say I was on the 5 chord and I wanted to go to a parallel major modulation. I'll just switch it to a minor, and that's how I would do it right there. Or if I was up here, now I'm up here on my fretboard, so I'm in this scale shape here, and now you can see that shape again. The inverted D is coming from this shape. So you can see these minor shapes still hold true, but they're related to different shapes now. This is using for example, well, that shape is related to this shape. And then this shape is related to this shape when you're going from a parallel minor, or just switching major to minor. But if you were thinking about fitting this into keys, you're changing keys, and that's where they call it a parallel minor. And I guess my point was, so it's just to get deeper into theory, probably lose the new people here. But if any intermediate people are still watching, that was my point, that like if I was on a 5 chord, it's parallel. It doesn't always have to be from 1 and going into a 6 minor. These could be from one shape to any shape. So I could be going from, let's say, G, now G minor, but that could be the 2 of my new chord, the 3 of my new scale. Sorry, the 3 of my new modulated scale, or the 6 of my modulated scale. It's usually going to be a 1 to a 6, but it could be anything. If it was parallel, it would be, and you were considering that this was the 5, you'd be going 5 to 3. And if this was a 4 chord of your key, your parallel movement would be 4 to 2. But you could really actually just go anywhere. And that last sound you heard was this shape here morph into that shape. And that's where it's helpful to know in these shapes where the third is root 3, 5. But this one is going to be 3, 5 root. So you know if you've got a 3 there, if you're in this shape minor, you can just switch it to major. And here's a little cool thing. You've heard in the blues, a cool blues trick that's used sometimes is to kind of swap out the third. Let me show you this. I went from, that was just me going, playing on a major chord, major triad, then basically, for lack of a better word, diddling the no, that's not a good word. The flat three. You can see I went from the 5 to the 6. That didn't really resolve anywhere. And then I went to the 1 there, shaded in tan so you can see the root relationships here. There's, getting back to C major shape, C minor shape. It all starts to go, oh yeah, these are the shapes I've always known. There's major and minor. G flat there. Here's G. G minor, G major. And what's that note? I went to the 5. Now that right there sounded kind of happy, had a little bit of a coherent sound to it because that was the 3 and the 4. They all came out of the same. But after a while, there's a little bit of a vanilla sound to it, and then we can go. And you got this raunchy kind of, old school blues sound. Well, that's because you're doing the minor third, major third trick. Because minor third, major third don't go together, but they can be used as a little funky, the funky sisters. Okay, we're gonna end with that. I hope that was super informative for your playing, and let me know in the comments below for sure if this was like, hey, that's really informative, or hey, I think you made a mistake over there, because I probably did. And anything else you wanna comment on? I mean, don't be snarky, but it's the internet, social media. That's how people go. Maybe I shouldn't say that because you say anything, you stir up the pot. At the very, very, if you're not gonna leave a comment, definitely like for sure. And if you want, subscribe, because we're still on that upward climb to 1,000 subscribers. 1,000. You see how many channels got 10,000, 100,000 subscribers. And look how many of those channels are frilly. You're looking at beautiful backgrounds and everything so manicured and nice. And where's the information? Where's the straightforward, like, here's the knowledge you need. Straightforward, trying to be super easy with slick mental things to help you out. That's this channel. So notice we are not super high on subscribers, but I complain about that in every lesson. So let me leave it with that, and we're getting out of here. Have a great day. Thank you for watching, and I've said everything I needed to say, so see you later. We're going to get to that exit button and hit it now. Thank you for watching. You guys have a great day. You're awesome.